Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida, and today's date is Wednesday, January 10th, 2021. The circus is continuing with the so-called impeachment of former President Donald Trump. The insurrection is still an inside job. I don't give a damn what those clowns have to say. Furthermore, doesn't mean I'm a Trump lover as well, because it is inapplicable. They're proud to be constitutional literates indeed, with their bogus rituals and all that. Churchill Hollywood, TV reality, presidential reality show, etc. I'm going to be addressing that, and going to do like at least two topics here. Yeah, so you hear people in the background. They're doing a little kickball thing here at the Huizinga Plaza, which was known as Bouvier Park. But they have it here like every Wednesday night. And it's not really like one side is well lit, the other one isn't. So that's just how it goes. So along New River. So if you hear the bridge in the background, yep, that's when the bridge is going up or open or closing the gates. You know how that goes. So let's just check it out right now. And let's just check it out right now. And let's see what we got. First of all, we'll do a little commentary here from the RepublicanStory.com. Came out today. And this is a nice little read here. It goes, why impeaching a former president wouldn't have surprised Thomas Jefferson. And they're on Telegram, so they got the channel there, tm.me/Real American News. All right. The Senate impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump is in line with a short field earlier this week by Trump's legal professionals, a authorized nullity that runs patently opposite to the plain language of the structure as a result of may it take away a president from a workplace he not occupies. Trump's case. Trump's authorized workforce rights should be dismissed with prejudice. However, that isn't true. Meet Warren Hastings, governor of India, through a reign of King George III, whose impeachment in England stuffed American newspapers in 1787 when the constitutional delegates had been assembly. The structure doesn't straight tackle whether or not the Senate can conduct an impeachment trial towards an individual, not workplace. However, that didn't maintain the Senate from doing so on two events, as famous within Holmes's impeachment trial memorandum. Certainly, the very first impeachment trial in 1799 involved a Tennessee senator whom the Senate had expelled a year earlier. With Vice President Thomas Jefferson presiding, the Senate thought about the case. Jefferson himself had endured an impeachment inquiry 8 years earlier after he accomplished his time period as Virginia governor for abandoning Virginia's capital within the face of the British troops in 1781. Trump's Senate trial would not have struck the founders as unusual as a result of through the Constitutional Conference, which ran from March 14 to September 17, 1787. The Philadelphia newspapers have been full of reports about Parliament's proceedings towards Hastings, who would resign his place 2 years earlier then. One delegate George Mason from Virginia introduced up Hastings' impeachment on September 8th when he argued that treason shouldn't be the only foundation for impeachment. Hastings was impeached on 20 counts, the primary thrust of which was that Hastings waged pointless wars all through India and requisitioned Indian treasures together with the hoard of a mom and grandmother of the ruler of the state of Awadh, the Begums of Uda. Below Hastings' management, Britain unified the governance of India from 3 districts: Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. to at least one, destabilizing older cooperative agreements that the British had struck with the Mughals and different Indian dynasties. Parliament additionally reviewed Hastings' insurance policies through the Bengal famine of 1772, during which, in the line with this person's report, 1/3 of the folks within the affected areas died, someplace between 2 and 10 million folks, in line with trendy analysis. The underlying subject was whether or not Indians had been folks over retrained dominion based on the best of conquest. To make use of Hastings' personal phrase in 1784, maybe it surprises you that scruples in regards to the proper of conquest ever troubled the British Empire in its heyday. Truly, the rules on which nice Britain exercised colonial sovereignty had been a matter of appreciable debate amongst British authorized authorities. It was a matter of dispute, as an example, whether or not these far-flung populations in the Americas, India, Erie, and Africa, Erie, and Africa, possess any rights as British topics. A query that would have sounded very acquainted to previous colonialists gathered in Philadelphia who simply fought a struggle over it. Questions on indigenous energy and racial ID additionally surfaced in the Parliament's debates over Hastings' impeachment. Ever Hastings grappled with them to some extent, selling larger data of Indian tradition and traditions and larger empathy. Sorry about that. Willis insisted that unrestricted dominion was the authorized foundation for British sovereignty. The prosecution was an all-star affair led by Edmund Burke, the political thinker who would go on to put in writing reflections on the revolution in France, with help from, amongst others, Brandon Bensley Sheridan, the playwright who had already written The College for Scandal and The Rivals. Each males had been Whig members of the Parliament. A 5-hour speech by Sheridan attracted explicit discover and was remembered afterward as one of the nice orations in British historical past. As printed within the Philadelphia Night Herald on May 9th, 1787, it says might, I think maybe May, I'm not so sure. Mere days earlier than the Constitutional Conference started, Sheridan condemned Hastings. Everlasting deviation from rectitude, he both tyrannified or deceived. In his thoughts, all was shuffling, ambiguous, darkish, insidious, and little nothing easy. Nothing unmixed, all affected plainness and precise dissimulation, and heterogeneous mass of contradictory qualities. With nothing nice, however, his crimes, even these, contrasted by the littleness of his motive, which directly denoted each his baseness and his meanness, and marked him for a traitor and a trickster. Nay, in his fashion and writing, there was the identical combination of vicious contradictions. Excuse me. Interesting there, right? Such speeches printed in nice size in the 18th century newspapers would have been onerous overlook on condition that these papers had been usually solely 4 pages lengthy and printed solely as soon as per week. Hastings was well known in America and would stay so for years as his trial dragged on within the House of Lords. No remaining verdict could even till 8 years later, in 1795, by which period of 1/3 of the British Friends current for the parliamentary testimony had been lifeless. Hastings was acquitted, at the least partially as a result of the bigger debate in regards to the nature of Britain's declare for empire remained unsettled. This problem has been anticipated by the George Mason on the Constitutional Conference when he mentioned that the Hastings is just not responsible for treason. Makes an attempt to subvert the structure might not be treason. That risk, Mason mentioned, made it the extra vital to increase the ability of impeachments to incorporate different excessive crimes and misdemeanors. All right, so it's interesting there. So it says here, in contemplating impeachment, the founders had been much less serious about whether or not the Senate would strive present officers or previous ones that they had been within the sort of crimes to be punished. The crimes that an article of impeachment accuses Trump of committing, inciting violence towards the authorities of the U.S. would have rank on their very prime. The likelihood that a president and his corrupt associates would probably try to commit treason was a difficulty that many delegates to the conference brazenly fearful about based on Madison's notes. Mr. Edmund Randolph moved to beside circumstances of treason. The president's pardon power. The prerogative of pardon in these circumstances was too nice a belief. The president could himself be responsible. The traitors could also be his own personal device. So in the long run, Randolph's exception was not adopted. However, solely as a result of the founders needed to part the president free in a nationwide emergency to discount with traitors or pardon any who have been convicted of treason and sentenced to dying, however, deserves reprieve. It was though the Constitutional Conference that John Hancock, the newly elected governor of Massachusetts, pardoned the leaders of Shays' riot, the occasion that had precipitated the calling of the conference. Much more outrageous than what Trump mentioned to incite the Capitol assault, whereas the Senate counted electoral votes, was that he didn't say or do to seize it. It's well known that Trump waited hours to inform the rioters to depart the Capitol. Willis police had been being injured by the mob. We have now one officer who misplaced his life as a direct result of the rebel. The chairman of the Capitol Police Union said it in a prepared statement. One other officer had tragically taken his personal life between the U.S. Capitol Police and our colleagues on the Metropolitan Police Division. We now have virtually 140 officers injured. I have officers who sustained mind accidents. One officer has 2 cracked ribs and 2 smashed spinal discs. One officer goes to lose his eye, and one other was stabbed with a steel fence stake. A number of blames for poor preparations rest with the prime police officers for not supplying these current with ample helmets and different safety. However, a lot of it rests with the Trump administration. Chris Miller, the president's hand-picked appearing protection secretary, issued an order for January 6th that made the National Guard unavailable to quell disturbances until he approved them personally. Interesting claim there. Others say other claims said it was totally different. Whereas the rioters unfold by the means of the Capitol, Miller refused to present that authorization, and Trump declined to intervene, even because the chief of the Capitol Police, the Republican minority chief, and others begged for his assist. In the long run, it took Vice President Mike Pence appearing in defiance of Miller's order and outdoors the chain of command to chip within the nationwide guard. As a historian, I can verify that Mason and the opposite founders who have agreed with abetting the rebel tried on January 6th constituted excessive crimes, if not precise treason. Evaluate his actions to Washington's in 1783 on the Continental Army camp in Newburgh, New York, when George Washington confronted down officers passing around a letter that proposed they encompass Congress at Philadelphia to demand their overdue pay. The plot was by no means carried out. However, it bears comparably to what the insurrectionists did on January 6th. Washington's condemnation was unequivocal. My God, what can this author have in view by recommending such measures? Can be a buddy to this nation. Fairly, is he not an insidious foe? No. I go away to ponder whether or not Sheridan's description of Hastings will be utilized in Trump's actions surrounding January 6th. Put such. The prisoner pleads that he's not accountable for the cruelties which have been exercised. The plea which tyranny aided by his prime minister. Treachery is all the time certain to arrange. It won't, I believe, be concluded that as a result Mr. Hastings has not been marked each passing shade of guilt. And since he has solely given the daring to find a cruelty, he's due to this fact to be acquitted. When the Home of Lords acquitted Hastings in 1795, it flinched from imposing penalties that include dolable execution and forfeiture of lands. A Senate conviction of Trump below the U.S. structure would merely bar Trump from holding public workplace or gathering substantial post-presidential financial advantages. It is a wholly cheap punishment for a president who's applied nothing nice, however his crimes. So based on this, it's just a complete witch hunt. Jefferson's not surprised at this. And of course, James Madison talked about impeachments of officers that are not there anymore under Federalist Papers 39 and Federalist Paper 65 written by Alexander Hamilton. How can impeachment be done arbitrarily, discriminatory, or in bad faith? You gotta look at all these angles. You talk to a person who's not a Trump worshiper. I was critical of him on some of a good amount of his actions, but I'm not gonna blame him for everything. See, Trump haters are a dangerous cult too. Okay, that's a fact. If people get offended by that, I don't give a damn. My speech, fact, does not. Facts are more essential than your feelings. Okay, that's how I look at it. Always have to examine these things a lot more thoroughly, and you got to study the past about impeachment and how it should be done. That's why I addressed those. I addressed that information about Madison and Hamilton, 39, 65, and 84. And you can look that up. It's very interesting stuff. We'll just have to see how far this dog and pony show went. And I'll be honest, I haven't really been paying too much attention to it. And so it won't get it. You got to take 2/3 supermajority. And the people who do, if they believe on conviction due to unmerited or hot air rhetoric, you can just let them know one thing: they suck at their job. Let the people in the House of Representatives do the same thing. I've done it. I don't give a damn what they think. So always observe everything thoroughly and know the constitutional law as well. So we're going to do one more here. Speaking of constitutional tyranny here. This came from the Epoch Times. Representative Maloney proposes gun control package. Yes. Let's see what this individual has to say. House Oversight Reform Committee Chairwoman Carolyn Maloney, Democrat from New York, presented 5 gun control bills on Wednesday. One of the bills, according to The Hill, is the Handgun Trigger Act, aims to encourage the development of smart gun technology, which would only allow authorized gun owners to fire the weapon. So, smart guns for stupid people. Another bill, the Gun Trafficking Prevention Act, seeks to make purchasing for a gun for an unauthorized person a felon instead of a misdemeanor. Maloney also proposed Firearms Risk Protection Act, which requires owners to obtain liability insurance. 2 other bills that the New York Democrat is proposing are a Gun Show Loophole Act, which orders gun show sellers to perform background checks when selling a firearm, which has already been done on these people in Twilight Zone, okay? And the NICS Review Act, which aims at having the FBI hold on to records of the National Instant Criminal Background Check System for 3 months in order to allow the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Explosives to evaluate the data. More nannyism, involuntary servitude, anti-Roe versus Wade. Okay? I can go on. So it's more of an Orwellian thing. Okay? So the Orwellian package, I call it. In 2020, federal authorities carried out more than 39.5 million firearm background checks. There's a chart for that. You can see it for yourselves. Maloney was optimistic her legislative package would need at a minimum of 10 Republican votes would pass the Senate. We're particularly positioned well to pass these bills have been around a long time, and that the American people overwhelmingly support, she said, so we have a very good opportunity. Sorry, Congresswoman Maloney, you haven't called me up, or your lackey, so you're full of crap. Maloney didn't immediately respond to a request by the Epoch Times for comment. According to the NCIS, a record 4.3 million firearm background checks were initiated in January. That's 300,000 more than in December 2020. 3 of the top 10 highest weeks are from this month alone. That's undoubtedly connected to the President Joe Biden's plan to attack the firearm industry by undoing and rewriting regulations and executive actions to target the firearm industry. Mark Olivia, the Director of Public Affairs at the National Shooting Sports Foundation, said in a statement, "These are jaw-dropping figures to start the new year. Americans are claiming their Second Amendment rights to provide their own safety in record numbers," Olivia said. The 79% year-over-year increase, however, was not unprecedented, or even higher increase of just over 100% was experienced in January 2013, the month Mr. Obama's second presidential term began. So, the whole thing is another monumental deception. Mercantilism 101. So who's her Lord and Savior? J.D. Rockefeller? Talk about Twilight Zone. I believe, if I'm correct, she's the same person that her husband was murdered at that transit in upstate New York area. Which is a shame. I'm not gonna, praise that. It's horrible, regardless. Very disturbing indeed. But if you're gonna punish everybody for what happened to your husband, that's a very dangerous platform, because they can backfire on her as well. But the whole thing is null and void. We can use is an impairing contract under Article 1, Section 10. And, of course, right of privacy, involuntary servitude, all that good stuff. So, sorry, honey. You're wrong. It's invalid. End of story. Prove me wrong if you dare. Because I'll tell you one thing. You never contacted me on this, so you don't have a damn clue. You're out of touch like everyone else in that demented cesspool, which is also known as Washington, D.C. All right, well, that will be it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or if you want to check out whatever you do, please send your correspondence to the quorum. Furthermore, I will leave the footnotes of these articles on my speaker page. If you want to contact me, you can hit me at LookYourLuck number 03 at portamail.com. If you want to donate, you can hit me at paypal.me or cash.app/LookYourLuck number 3. If you want to support the other sites in here, the Epoch Times and RepublicanStory.com, that would be awesome. Give them that generosity and support as well. All right, folks, that's all again. Once again, thank you for your time. But always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love. May your guardian spirits be with you.